Well, hi, welcome to the dramatic improbable reading session. This is the, I think, third time we've done this, or maybe second time, or maybe fourth time at ReaderCon. I'm Mark Abrams, the editor of the Annals of Improbable Research, which is a magazine, and I also started and more or less run the annual Ig Nobel Prize ceremony. What you're seeing tonight is a spin-off in the hands of great actors of some stuff that happened in connection with the Ig Nobel Prize ceremony. But we won't explain that here. We're just going to go ahead. What we're going to do is take some published research study, most of them scientific research studies, which are things that few people ever actually see, and we're going to treat them as if they are theatrical scripts. Some of these studies contain passages of text that are as good, no matter how you want to measure it, as any theatrical script ever written and performed on Broadway or in London or anywhere else that you want to mention. So what we have done is taken, with each of these great readers, we've let them choose from among a pile of these studies two of their favorites. And these are all studies that they had never seen before until they had to choose on short notice. Each of them will do a dramatic reading from two different studies, so there'll be actually two dramatic readings. We've asked them to limit it to 2 minutes from each study. And that can be either 2 minutes of a consecutive piece of text or a hodgepodge of different stuff from within the study that adds up to about 2 minutes. We have a timing mechanism to keep it down to 2 minutes, which we'll explain in a bit. And then, keeping in mind that each of these people will be reading dramatically something that they know nothing about, we will then take a few questions, or they will, and try to answer them honestly. So here are tonight's readers in the order that they will be reading. Keep in mind that we're going to cycle through, so it will be in this order. Each of them will read a study, and then we'll come back and cycle through the same readers, each of them reading a different study. First will be Robin Abrams. Robin, can you describe yourself in about a sentence?
And your wife.
Yeah. Now could you tell us, now could you tell us which two studies you will be reading dramatically from?
I will be reading Forensic Archaeology and the Wood Chipper Murder first, and Growing Up Punk second.
Next will be Rose Fox. I want to mention that Rose is one of the handful of people who put together all of ReaderCon and who probably has had far, far less sleep than you would believe over the weeks and months leading up to this. Rose, if you could describe yourself in about a sentence.
I make things better.
And what two studies will you be reading from tonight?
The first study I'll be reading is Gender-Related Book Carrying Behavior, a Re-Examination. The second is Patient Preference for Waxed or Unwaxed Dental Floss.
Our next historic dramatic reader will be Sonia Tafe. Sonia, can you describe well, I know you can. Would you please describe yourself in about a sentence?
I talk about things.
What will you be talking about, I guess?
I will be talking from Galvanism as a Galactagogue and how to procrastinate and still get things done.
And I believe we have temporarily lost Mark. Mark, are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Awesome.
Yep. Sorry about that. Our next dramatic reader will be Claire Cooney. Claire, could you would you please describe yourself in about a sentence?
An actor in the age of COVID.
What will you be acting dramatically from tonight?
Scrotal asymmetry in man and an ancient sculpture, and arachnophobic entomologist when two more legs makes a big difference.
And coming up as the grand reader at the end of the cycle will be somebody who's never done this before and who's very daring and gracious in taking this on. Sarah Dion. Sarah, would you please describe yourself in about a sentence?
Yeah, I am a fairy that somehow ended up on the material plane.
What will you be reading for us tonight?
I will be reading Giant Robber Crabs Monitored from Space, followed by Inappropriate Sexuality, Sex Magic, S&M, and Wicca, or Ripping Harry Potter's Arse.
Thank you. Each dramatic reading will be limited to about 2 minutes, and DK, David Kessler, will be our timekeeper to help each of the readers keep track of how time is moving, if that's the right verb, along. DK, first, could you describe yourself in about a sentence?
Logistics geek, whiskey lover, and stage manager of the Iggs.
Ah, right. What DK will be doing for timing is we have a sound which the group has chosen from among all of the possible sounds that we could be using, that he will be making. This sound he will make once after 30 seconds of each reading. After another 30 seconds passes by, he will make the sound twice. Could you make the sound for us? Okay, so that's after 30 seconds. After 1 minute, after a minute and a half has gone by, and after 2 minutes, and he will continue making the sound until the reader stops. I hope. DK, could you very briefly tell us the history of this sound as it relates to what we're doing here?
Well, this is a duck call, and the reason I'm doing this is because in 2003, we awarded an Ig Nobel Prize to Case Mulliker for his paper, The First Case of Homosexual Necrophilia in the Mallard Duck.
This is a homage of sorts to that paper. Okay, we will not, however, be reading from that paper tonight. Are we all set to begin? Okay. First, here is Robin Abrams. Robin, if you could first read the title of the paper and...
Forensic Archaeology and the Wood Chipper Murder by Albert Harper.
Okay. And everybody else, if you could mute yourself and unvideo yourself while somebody's reading, and then you'll come back right after the reading. Okay, are you both all set? On your mark? And that's what this paper looks like at the beginning.
Oh, spoilers.
You can all go and get a copy of this paper. And I remind you, none of the readers has seen these papers prior to really a few minutes ago. So here's a dramatic reading from this paper by Robin Abrams. On your mark, get set, go.
Richard Crafts was an unusually thorough man in everything he did. His wife was scheduled home for her European tour. Richard had arranged for the delivery of a new dump truck, a cash purchase of a new freezer, and the rental of a large commercial-sized wood chipper that could devour 12-inch diameter logs, all for her November 18th homecoming. The evidence found in the wood chips along the river, however, led to Kraft's arrest for the murder of his wife in January. Scattered amongst the leaves and the wood chips recovered among the frozen mud of the Housatonic River were very small pieces of bone, hair, and tissue. Additionally, a crown of a human tooth and human premolar. The police now had a body, such as it was, and evidence that that body had been subjected to unnatural forces before or after death. Here, as in most cases, a team approach to forensic science paid off. Forensic serologists and the remarkable analysis of Dr. Gus Karazoulis, the forensic dentist who examined the tooth and crown found in the wood chips. Despite Kraft's best, almost perfect attempts to get away with murder, he was arrested, tried, and found guilty and sentenced to 50 years in prison. His conviction was a result of forensic science. Cheers.
Everybody else, if you could bring yourself back visually and unmute yourself. And if you have a question for our reader, please raise your hand.
Wasn't that a wholesome story?
Should we like physically raise our hand? Or
Yes,
just
please,
raise
so
hand?
I can see you. Okay, Sarah, you have a question. What question is it?
Yeah. So was the wood chipper murder in the film Fargo based off of this, Or, like, when did this happen? Did he get the idea from Fargo, or was it the other way around? Like, what's the cause and effect here?
Before we hear the answer to this, I'm going to interrupt dramatically to point out that we have one rule for our readers in answering questions. You can answer these questions any way you like with one rule. The rule is no bullshitting. If you do not know something, just say you don't know it. If you'd like to speculate, that's fine. But make it clear that that's what you're doing. Okay. Please, Robin.
That's a little unclear in the article. The murder did happen before the movie, but the author kind of didn't want to go there. And you can't blame him.
Okay. Claire, you have a question.
Robin, have you yourself ever been tempted to use a wood chipper in an act of murder?
No comment.
Okay. Sonia, I believe you had a question.
Is this the only murder of its kind? Or, as has been alluded to by the previous questioners, is this actually just a very popular kind of murder that doesn't make the news as often as it should?
You know, I mean, when you look up what he had to do with the cash money rental, and then there's like this whole thing about like something not getting scheduled when it was supposed to, and just honestly, the logistics. I mean, by chance, a U-Haul truck towing several large, there was a delay in the delivery of truck and unexpected snowstorm and power outage. I mean, this is kind of a complicated thing to manage.
Okay, and
Not
Rose,
to
you have
mention, you know, obtrusive. If you live in a high density area, forget about it.
Rose, you have a question.
Yes, I am the Lorax and I speak for the trees. I forget about this person. Was any wood put through the wood chipper?
Not after that for a long time, I would imagine.
Good. Thank you very much, Robin, for that reading. Our next dramatic reading will be by Rose Fox. Rose, would you please remind us the title of the study that you'll be reading from?
Yes, I will be reading Gender-Related Book-Carrying Behavior, a Re-Examination by Evelyn Tommen, Emil Reith, and Christiane Steffen, any of whose names I may be mispronouncing.
All right. And set to go. So on your marks, get set, go.
Several studies investigated the relation between age and carrying behavior. Hanaway and Burghardt, 1976, Jenny and Jenny, 1978, Shemin and Lockhart and Miller, 1978. Analyses indicated an absence of differences in carrying behavior of kindergarten children. By primary school, however, girls' carrying behavior begins to differ from that of boys. A growing proportion of girls rest their books on the hips and cradle books with the arms against the torso. The greatest increase in this carrying style by girls is around adolescence. The carrying behavior of boys is stable. These age-related differences led a number of authors to hypothesize that morpho-anatomical factors such as hip and shoulder width or grip strength may play a role in determining differences related to gender in carrying positions. More recently, Alley and Kolker, 1988, reported that 8.5% of women not using book bags used masculine Type 2 carrying styles. These authors also investigated whether there might be a relation between book carrying styles and personality traits such as sex role identity. For female subjects, they obtained significant correlations between carrying style and subject self-ratings on masculinity and femininity scales. For males, correlations were not significant. Taken as a whole, the results of the above-mentioned studies point to the necessity for caution when attempting to explain the observed differences in carrying behavior on the basis of variables such as those that have been examined up until now: culture, age, morphology, strength, personality traits. Although it may be safe to conclude that both socio-physiological and morpho-anatomical factors play some role in book-carrying behavior, it does not seem possible to isolate one factor as responsible for differences in carrying styles between sexes. Given this difficulty, we think it is important to re-examine the sexual status of differences in book-carrying behavior and to question the stereotypical nature of the different positions that have been described. Is it justified to define them as typically male or typically female?
Thank you. Everybody else, please come back. And if you have a question, please wave your arm so we can see that you have a question. Okay, Claire.
Did the researchers mention Kindle or electronic books and carrying styles?
As this study is from 1993, they did not.
Any further questions? Okay, Sonia.
Are the results of the study on carrying behaviors affected when you drop all your books and have to scoop them up again really fast?
Let me scroll through and see. I don't see anything like that in the figures, the charts, or the analysis here.
Okay, any
Which is
further
a shame
questions?
because that does happen quite a lot.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much. Our next reader is Sonia Tafe. Sonia, what will you be reading for us first?
Galvanism as a galactagogue.
Okay. And here we go. On your mark, get set, go.
Galvanism as a galactagogue. To the editor of The Lancet, Sir, as in reference to Monsieur Frenier's case reported in the Gazette des Hospitaux, alluded to in The Lancet of the 14th installment, the following case, in which galvanism was used by me 3 months ago to promote the secretion of milk, may not be uninteresting. MAC, aged about 40 years, a stout, healthy-looking woman, was confined on the 20th of March, 1862, with her 15th child. The last 2 children were stillborn at the 7th month, and the 3 previous ones were not nursed because there was no milk for their support. On the 26th, the child being very weakly and there being no milk secreted, the bosom's quite flaccid and not having been affected at all by her confinement, I commenced the use of galvanism by one of Davis and Kidder's machines for about 20 minutes. This was repeated on 3 successive days when there was a good supply of milk and it was discontinued. Mrs. C now reports that she nursed the baby regularly for 7 weeks when the milk left her altogether. I am, sir, yours, etc., William Highmore, MD, Sherburne, June, 1862. Published in The Lancet of July 12th, 1862.
Thank you. Everyone else, please come back. And if you have a question, please wave your arm. Yeah, Sarah.
What is galvanizing? Like, I genuinely don't know what that is.
Applying electricity.
Oh, okay. To the bosom. Oh, all right. I see. Thank you for clarity.
Claire, you have a question?
What's a galactagogue?
I'm so glad you asked. Galactagogue, from the Greek for milk and the Greek from to draw forth or to lead. Galactos, milk, a neuter noun, I believe, found in the words like galaxy and galactic, as in galaxy.
Wow.
Gog, from the leader, agos, from the verb ago, to lead, or to fetch, or to carry, or to draw forth. Galactagogue, therefore, something which draws forth or produces milk.
We have all learned things.
Rose, you have a question?
I don't carry this little and Scott around for nothing.
Rose.
So did this doctor refer to himself ever after as the Galactagogue, like as a superhero name, or on his business cards, or was it just this one time and then he moved on with his life?
I have no further biographical details other than that he is the sort of person who signs himself WM period when his name is William. And to be honest, that may just have been for space in the column. It's quite a small item, and I imagine a lot of people write into The Lancet trying to explain really exciting and wacky things they have done with science then as now. But in answer to your actual question, did he so bill himself for the rest of his life? God, I hope so.
Any further questions? No. Okay, thank you very much. Our next reader is Claire Cooney. Claire, what will you, did I have you describe yourself in a sentence?
You did.
Oh, I did. Good. I'm so glad I didn't forget.
I can do it again.
Why not?
I'm an actress in the time of COVID.
And what are you going to read for us now?
scrotal asymmetry in man and in ancient sculpture. Interest in testicular asymmetry, however, may be traced back much further.
Wait until you get the signal to begin, so we
Oh.
can start timing.
We better do that. I'll wait.
We better. Okay.
Put me on, boss.
On your mark, get set, go.
Interest in testicular asymmetry may, however, be traced back further. Winckelmann in 1764 commented that even the private parts have their appropriate beauty. The left testicle is always the larger, as it is in nature. He went on, however, so likewise it has been observed that the sight of the left eye is keener than the right, an observation which to my knowledge has never been confirmed. To test Winckelmann's claim, I observed the scrotal asymmetry of 107 sculptures, either of antique origin or Renaissance copies, in a number of Italian museums and galleries. Table 1 shows that, although the ancient artists were correct in tending to place the right testicle higher, they were wrong insofar as they also tended to make the lower testicle the larger. We may postulate that they were also using the common sense view that the heavier ought to be lower. Although Winckelmann's observations of ancient sculpture were correct, his observations of nature are clearly in error. The reason for the artists placing the right testicle higher than the left is not clear. It may reflect the true observed state of things, but it may also be a function of Greek left-right symbolism in which right and male and left and female were regarded as equivalent, and thus, for instance, the male child was presumed to come from the right and thus higher testes, and vice versa for the female child.
Thank you, Captain Queeg. If the rest of you could come back, and if you have a question, please wave your arm. Okay, Robin.
So basically, this article is saying that it was like a vast right ball conspiracy.
That is one way of summing it up.
Okay. Thank you.
Perhaps.
Thank you.
Sarah?
So you said that he looked at sculptures in a variety of Italian museums, but like, what about, spaces outside of Italy? Is there this same testicular pattern, this same incorrect sculpting of the testicular region elsewhere in the world?
I believe that the article is only speaking of scrotal asymmetry in ancient sculpture and ancient being observed in the Italian museums. Yes, a number of Italian museums and galleries. The author has not checked anywhere else in the world to measure scrotal asymmetry.
Thank you.
Sonia?
I too was struck by the confines of the sample set and was wondering if it's possible that in the same way that, the magnetic pull of the earth sometimes just flips, in the millennia since these asymmetries were preserved for all to study years later, is it possible that the balls just hang differently nowadays?
It is a working hypothesis that we can certainly test. Should we be so moved?
Rose?
Do you think, in your professional opinion, as someone who works with words, that every use of the word test with relation to this hypothesis is in some way suspect of being a pun?
I love puns, Rose Fox. So if it is, I'm very grateful. And you can put me to the test anytime.
Thank you very much. Our next dramatic reader is Sarah Dion. Sarah, what will you be reading from to begin with?
I will be reading Giant Robber Crabs Monitored from Space.
Okay. DK will show us what that looks like, what the paper looks like. All right, and let's commence. On your mark, get set, Go.
Schiller et al. And a number of other authors had previously reported that unlike the females, bilateral males do not migrate to the coast to breed. Females were thought to copulate in the inland forests and then move to coastal areas to spawn. However, tracking data from our study show that the males do move to the coast during the wet season, but remain there for relatively short periods of time. This coastal movement was much more common in males tracked during the wet season than those tracked during the dry season, and data collected indicate remarkably different behavior in individuals at the coast between the two seasons. In the 2008 and 2010 monitoring wet season, a total of 9 of the 21 males tracked were observed to migrate uni or bi-directionally between the coast and the inland forest areas. This contrasts with the 14 males tracked in the 2011 dry season, of which only a single individual was observed to move to the coast from the inland forest, where it then spent a relatively protracted period of 30 days at the coast. Given the above, as well as Drew's observation of a number of copulatory events on the coastal plateau in late 2009, and the discovery of a number of females with fresh spermatophores on the coastal plateau in the 2010 breeding season, we suggest that the observed long-distance migration of males in this study may occur in a reproductive context.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everybody else, please come back. And if you have a question, wave your arm, please. Anyone have a question? Okay, Rose.
Where does the from space part come in?
The satellites being used to monitor the crab behavior are satellites from space, is my understanding.
Claire.
Does the author describe the copulatory event?
No, the author does not go into detail about the copulatory events, which I think if they had, I think it would have made for maybe a little bit less dry reading.
Dry seasons.
Yep, a little bit more of the dry season.
Are there further questions and arms to be waved? Robin.
Do crabs worry about humans on spring break?
That's very insightful. I would speculate that I would think that they do. I would have to say that it would be my opinion that I'm sure they most likely do indeed.
Any further questions? DK, sorry, as timekeeper, you don't get to ask a question, but you can make a disapproving noise if you choose.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further disapproving noises? No. We will now move to round 2, the final cycling through of our dramatic readers. First up is Robin. Robin, what will you be reading for us now?
Growing Up Punk, Negotiating Aging Identity in a Local Music Scene by Joanna Davis.
This is what the beginning of that study looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And let us begin. On your mark, get set, go.
For this article, I focus on interview data. Ryan is dismayed by a friend. He's gonna start looking really fucking ridiculous, man. He fucking dresses and he gets haircuts like he's fucking 19-year-old kid. He's got a fucking 19-year-old girlfriend. Dude, I don't want to tell people to act their age because, you're still gonna play in punk bands. But, like, when you get older, it just seems like you should have a little more dignity. Ryan is concerned that his friend is not accepting growing older and is making a fool of himself by his refusal to grow up. Susan is disapproving and was at this venue, which was like really tiny and loud as fucking. Oh God, it was a great show. It was all crammed in there. And there was this guy who had like maybe a 10-month-old on his shoulders. He's jumping up and down. He's like, "Rah!" And like this poor baby had his hands over his ears, and it's like poor agony on his face. And so that was repulsive to me. The noise, violence, and crowded conditions are, says Susan, important reasons to keep her parenting and her scene involvement separate. Mitch talks about what a perfect example of an aging punk who integrates his adult and punk self. He teaches at the high school. He's like so smart. He's a really intelligent guy. Like back in college, nobody ever gave him a second chance. And he went on tours like a roadie and like this total drunken fucker. And now he's teaching our kids. Like, it's awesome. This friend has changed from the drunken fucker that everyone once saw him as and has become a successful adult.
Thank you. Everybody please come back, and if you have a question, raise your arm. Whose arm is going to be raised? Rose.
Does the author identify as a crusty old punk, or is this an outsider study?
That is never made clear. What is made clear is you can get published with 6 interviews.
Okay. Other questions?
Do you have a favorite punk band?
Do I? Ooh, sadly, no. I should work on that.
Me neither.
Okay, Sonia.
I feel like Mitch would have a really good recommendation.
Sonia.
I was curious. Were the interview subjects required in any way to prove their punk credentials before being interviewed? Or is it possible that this was just a lot of middle-aged poseurs?
Ooh. On a personal level, these people were in their 30s, so I have issues with the middle-aged description. I don't know. There is usually, there's a standard reference section in the back, but there's no section for street cred. So it's not clear.
Any other questions? Yes.
Sarah.
Was there one particular interviewee that you really identified with?
I think that might be Susan, because I too do not like to see children tortured and subjected to hearing loss, but I am aware that that is, a personal feeling.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next reader for the second time tonight is Rose Fox. Rose, what will you be drawing your material from?
I will be reading Patient Preference for Waxed or Unwaxed Dental Floss by Robert H. Beaumont.
Okay, and we're looking momentarily at the beginning of that study. Here we go. On your mark, get set, go.
Proponents of popular Bass oral hygiene methods traditionally have instructed patients to use only nylon filament unwaxed floss, which was thought to be superior to the waxed variety. The various reasons for recommending unwaxed floss include thinness and therefore ease of passing between tight contact areas, lack of a wax residue, a squeaking sound effect when moving over a clean tooth surface, and fiber spread resulting in increased surface contact and greater plaque removal. Unwaxed floss, though, even of the stronger bonded type, may frustrate and discourage users because of an inherent weakness and propensity to fray, especially in the presence of crowded teeth, heavy calculus, and defective restorations. The purpose of this study was to discover patient preference for waxed or unwaxed dental floss and to learn more about patient flossing habits. Each patient was given a 30-centimeter length of similar appearing standard white waxed or bonded unwaxed control brand dental floss dispensed from an unmarked container. Each was then asked to floss his or her choice of an anterior contact followed by a molar contact. All participants had anterior teeth with proximal contacts and at least one molar with molar or premolar proximal contact. Specific flossing technique instructions were not given, and the patients had the freedom to randomly select contact areas to floss. Some were provided with minor assistance, if necessary, to find suitably located contacts or to manipulate the floss. The presence or absence of a restoration was not a factor in the selection of contact areas. Studies have shown a near equal ability of both waxed and unwaxed floss to remove plaque and prevent gingivitis. It could be speculated that the slight advantage seen with waxed floss is a result of patient preference and ease of manipulation. Waxed floss may be a particular advantage to beginners and those with imperfect interdental contacts and restorations because it resists shredding.
Thank you. Please come back, everyone, and if you have a question, wave your arm. Okay, Sarah.
So which do you prefer, Rose, waxed or unwaxed?
That's just such an intimate question. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, but in fact, like many of the patients in the study, I do prefer waxed dental floss.
Sonia.
Is there a stage at which the novice or the person with the imperfect interdental contact should feel themselves qualified to move from one kind of floss to the other?
Well, it does say that the 70.5% of the patients sampled who don't floss daily represent a formidable challenge to the dental profession if daily interdental cleaning by means of dental floss is indeed an essential component of disease prevention. So I take from this that daily flossing is very important, and it is only through daily practice, as with becoming a musician who performs at Carnegie Hall, that one can truly call oneself an expert and able to choose an instrument without fear of being judged incorrect.
Any further questions? No. Thank you very much, Rose. Sonia will be reading from a paper called...
Give me a minute.
Is that the title?
How to procrastinate and still get things done.
Could you repeat that, please?
How to procrastinate and still get things done.
Okay. Let's get going. On your mark, get set, go.
I have been intending to write this essay for months. Why am I finally doing it? Because I finally found some uncommitted time? Wrong. I have papers to grade, a grant proposal to review, drafts of dissertations to read. I am working on this essay as a way of not doing all of those things. This is the essence of what I call structured procrastination, an amazing strategy I have discovered that converts procrastinators into effective human beings, respected and admired for all that they can accomplish and the good use they make of their time. All procrastinators put off things that they have to do. Structured procrastination is the art of making this bad trait work for you. The key idea is that procrastinating does not mean doing absolutely nothing. Procrastinators seldom do absolutely nothing. They do marginally useful things, such as gardening or sharpening pencils or making a diagram of how they will reorganize their files when they find the time. Why does the procrastinator do these things? Because accomplishing these tasks is a way of not doing something more important. To make structured procrastination work for you, begin by establishing a hierarchy of the tasks you have to do in order of importance from the most urgent to the least important. Even though the most important tasks are on top, you have worthwhile tasks to perform lower on the list. Doing those tasks becomes a way of not doing things higher on the list. With this sort of appropriate task structure, you can become a useful citizen. Indeed, the procrastinator can even acquire, as I have, a reputation for getting a lot done. At this point, the observant reader may feel that structured procrastination requires a certain amount of self-deception, since one is, in effect, constantly perpetrating a pyramid scheme on oneself. Exactly. One needs to be able to recognize and commit oneself to tasks with inflated importance and unreal deadlines while making oneself feel that they are important and urgent. This clears the way to accomplish several apparently less urgent but eminently achievable tasks, and virtually all procrastinators also have excellent skills at self-deception. So what could be ever more noble than using one character flaw to offset the effects of another?
Well, Mark has briefly stepped out, I think.
I feel
So,
I've accomplished something.
yeah. I don't know what task he stepped out for, but as long as we're all here, is there anyone who has questions for this paper? Rose.
Has this paper been turned into a self-help book, or is it just ripe to become one?
Given that the copy that I have appears to be the original publication from the Chronicle of Higher Education in 1996, it is unknown to me whether the author is now absolutely rolling in bank from selling this idea to people with exactly as good a time organizational structure as I have.
Yes, Sarah.
So if you're like prioritizing the tasks, like how do you finally get to the ones that you least want to do?
To this point, you may be asking, how about the important tasks at the top of the list? Admittedly, they pose a potential problem.
Okay. That they do.
Okay.
Sonia, you say that you are a person who has exactly the sort of problem that this paper addresses. Have you tried a similar solve for your problem? Have you ever tried to like organize your different tasks according to urgency?
Fifth Amendment?
Fair enough.
Okay. Robin, have you any question? Keeping in mind we can't see or hear you.
Sorry, my internet just went out.
Okay.
I
Sonia, how
didn't
would
hear
you
the
answer
last
that
of that.
question? Or answer that as a question?
Yes. My internet just went out, Sonia. Please answer that question.
I think that you should definitely call a repair person about fixing your internet, but only after you've had a chance to do all the things that the internet has been getting in the way of. So,
Ooh.
like, books that you've been wanting to read for a long time, or long
Good
walks you've been
answer.
intending to take with your dog, or art you've been intending to paint. And considering that we're all talking on Zoom, I would expect to hear from you sometime next year.
Good answer.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our next reader will be Claire Cooney. Claire, what have you chosen for us this time?
Arachnophobic entomologist. When Two More Legs Makes a Big Difference by Richard S. Vedder.
Ready? On your mark, get set, go.
Below are several individual cases that are illuminating, presented with their FSQ, Fear of Spiders, score, max 126, ratings of disgust and fear of spiders, 1 equals low, 5 equals high, and the taxa with which the respondents work. Respondent number 3. FSQ, Fear of Spiders, question 98, disgust 3, fear 5, works with parasitic Hymenoptera. With a score nearing 100, this entomologist has strong arachnophobia to the extent that counseling was considered but avoided due to fear that she might have to encounter live spiders as part of therapy. When she was 7 years old, her father teasingly threatened her with a large spider in a container. At age 19, she witnessed an egg sac hatching on her mattress. The large number of liberated spiderlings, quote, made her skin crawl, unquote. A specimen deemed by a parent to be the, quote, largest spider in California, unquote, instigated a 15-minute panic attack at age 20. In college, due to the serendipitous conflict of a work schedule, her only workable option for an elective was an entomology class, and though the first week topic, relatives of insects, was difficult, as soon as the cockroaches were brought out, she was hooked. As an adult entomologist, she avoids looking at spider pictures unless it is necessary, and she has tried not to walk past a spider poster in her entomology class. To this day, family members none of whom are arachnophobic, continue the tormenting by mimicking the movements of a tarantula with their hands. She finds the mechanics of the slow, cautious, malevolent-looking megalomorphine gait unsettling more than the quick movement.
Mark, you're muted.
I'm best when I'm muted. Sorry about the internet problems here. Um, Any further questions on this? Yes, Sarah.
Why is that woman's family so terrible to her?
As a person with 5 brothers and a possible cruel streak in my own teasing occasionally, I can only say that maybe she likes it a little. After all, she became an entomologist, and she likes cockroaches, so I wouldn't put it past her to give back as good as she got.
Fair enough.
Good. Any further questions? Robin.
Did it explain why some people also have a particular fear of cockroaches?
It did
Or
not.
other bugs?
It did not. In fact, it concentrated on all of the subjects were entomologists, and most of them who hated spiders actually liked things like maggots and cockroaches.
Huh.
I think spiders, the only thing that was like on the disgust and fear level of spiders was usually ticks.
Hmm.
And I think it had to do with the number of legs, but I'd have to reread again.
Well, wouldn't 2 extra legs make anything more scary?
I'm rather fond of spiders myself, so that's a difficult question for me to answer.
Thank you. And now, all too soon, we've come to the final reading in tonight's dramatic readings session. Sarah, what will you be treating us to?
I will be treating you to inappropriate sexuality, sex magic, S&M, and Wicca, or whipping Harry Potter's arse.
And we are peering at the first page of that paper momentarily. Now let's plunge into it. On your mark, get set, go.
It is clear that the perceived need to present Wicca as whiter than white has come about in the post-Gardner decades, and that masculine, dangerous sex has been banned as women have become more prominent in Wicca. There has certainly been a concerted effort to sweep the early days of male lechery, of titillation rather than subversion, under the magic carpet. But power and its links with sexuality has, as one might expect, engendered different reactions. To some, particularly women engaged in feminist witchcraft, sky-clad rituals within closed initiatory groups meeting in secret has reinforced perceptions of dangerous sex, and even some Wiccan covens have removed the symbol of power, the scourge, from their altars and no longer use scourging, blood control through bondage, or sex as magical techniques. Others, however, appropriate the Wiccan magic circle as a space of resistance in which the sexual morals of Christianity and patriarchy can be subverted. Those with an interest in sadomasochism make use of bondage and flagellation and experiment with pain, drawing S&M techniques into the rituals of Wicca physically, as opposed to the abstract or symbolic appreciation of scourge and cords found in most covens. What is perhaps most interesting, however, is the way in which women, if they feel safe, use the circle as a space in which to play with the expression of their dangerous sexuality, confronting the limits and boundaries of what constitutes acceptable female sexuality and spirituality. The construction and performance of the positions women take up in Wicca, expressed through bodily ritual, facilitate a flirtation with power. That such constructions are constrained within a voyeuristic rather than a real sex environment does not lessen the potential to disrupt. Wow, perfect. Exactly 2 minutes.
Come back, everybody. Raise your arm if you have a question. Sonia.
So does this paper actually contain any Harry Potter kink, or am I just going back to AO3 later tonight?
You're just going back to AO3 later tonight. The Harry Potter is just more of, a title to kind of bring people in, I think. Yeah, nothing specifically related to Harry Potter in the paper. But I'm sure you can find more than enough of that on AO3.
So this is academic paper clickbait.
Yes.
Claire?
How many times exactly does the term magic carpet come up in that article?
Actually, just the once. And it's kind of disappointing because like they could have done more with that. About matching the magic curtains. Definitely could have been done there, and that was a little disappointing that the author Joe Pearson, the author, did not kind of take that a little bit further.
Missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Robin, you had a question?
My question was literally the same thing. Like, what, as the first one was like, does Harry Potter like show up at any point in this paper?
Well, the
Sadly,
answers are so
no.
interesting from this dramatic reader that it might not be a bad thing to ask the same question again and see what answer we get.
Yeah. Does Harry Potter make any appearance or any further reference?
No, he does not, sadly. It's really just, it's more just about within the Wiccan religion, sexuality. Nothing to do directly with Harry Potter.
Wow.
So this paper is just squandered opportunity after squandered opportunity.
Claire?
Now, I'm familiar with the term skyclad, but does the author themselves ever define skyclad for the reader?
No, I'm assuming it means like nude. I from context I gathered that, though I don't think I had heard that term before.
Very witchy word.
Okay.
Old.
Yeah,
Any further?
It's an old-ish paper. It's from 2005.
We hate you now.
I mean,
We liked you before, but we hate you now.
I guess compared to like the one from the 1800s, it's not that old. Like...
Any further questions? As this is the final reading of the night, if there's any question that you might otherwise be hesitant to ask, remove all hesitation and ask. Anyone? Rose.
Sarah, if this isn't too personal a question, how have you enjoyed your very first time being a reader for the Ig Nobel dramatic readings?
This was amazing and so much fun. I would love to come back and do this again. I'm really happy that Robin brought me on board. This was just like super fun and hilarious.
Okay. Well, I want to thank each. I feel that we've been treated to the all-star team tonight. And I want to thank each of you very much for doing this. And DK, thank you for keeping time accurately, I'm assuming. All of these papers do exist. You can go and Google them and find copies and read the extra details. I hope you enjoy them even a quarter as much as our dramatic readers apparently enjoyed diving quickly into them. Thank you all for joining us at ReaderCon. Thank you again, Rose, and your colleagues also for making all this work. I hope you'll come next year to our session. Thanks.